And our next speaker is Advocate Linda Retief, as Mandy has alluded. Advocate Linda is a practicing advocate and a member of the Pretoria Bar. In 2019, she was appointed as an acting judge to the bench of the Pretoria Division of the High Court of South Africa. She has practiced in the legal fraternity as an officer of the courts for 25 years, has been appointed by the then Law Society of South Africa as a lecturer for continued legal education, and now an examiner by the General Bar Council for pupil valuation and entrance in the profession. Advocate specializes in medical law and all peripheral legal issues, including the legal aspects of fertility and surrogacy. She attained her BLC LLB from the University of Pretoria. Advocate Linda, the stage is yours.
A very, very good afternoon to all the attendees that are sitting here before me, to our medical practitioners, and to any colleagues who are out there who are watching a live stream as I'm beginning to talk. To start off with, could I say thank you very much for that long-winded credentials. Credentials is usually quite a mouthful, isn't it? And actually, in truth, in the end, when you leave here this afternoon, you're possibly not going to remember a damn thing that was said, and nor do I expect you to. So what is important for me here as I stand before you is Linda Retief. What I want you to take with you when you do leave is one thing. I am, in fact, a surgeon of words. Now, how odd is that? In other words, it simply means that words are the tools that I use in the space and the arenas in which I work. So where do I work? Well, they are words that I use for or on behalf of clients in open court as counsel. They're words that I write down to in a judgment that I might disseminate in a matter that is argued before me. But most importantly, and that's the reason why I'm here to chat to you today, I also use words as a trained family and civil mediator, meaning what I do is I grab the words of the people between me, I shake those words around, and what I will illustrate is I then push them to each other, and they then themselves find a light in their own words to come to a resolution of their own problem. Because then for the first time, I don't sit as a referee and I don't sit as a judge. Now, because we're dealing with words, let's look at them. Do I push what color button? Anyone? Any button? Green. Aha. All right. Let's play with the first word, seeing as that's the theme that I have. The word behind me is mediate. Now, the derivative of the word mediate in many languages, and particularly English, comes from Latin. And it simply means to stand in the middle of something. Now, I can assure you that as counsel, and as a judge, and as a mediator, that is exactly what I do. I stand in the middle of a dispute. I stand in the middle of war. I stand in the middle of the particular, what we call fracas. Now, that's a nice word. Now, the difference here with mediation is that I stand in the middle, but for the very, very first time, the hat is completely different. So let's illustrate why I think, and my topic for today is mediation in the process and also after the process of IVF. Why should you know about mediation when you are on this journey? Behind me is another word, and I normally use pictures because I need you to listen to my voice and the words that are coming out of my mouth. Now, the word is family. Now, let's accept that most of you are here at this very place today because you either want to start a family or you want to expand on the family that you already have. Now, a family is a mixture or a collection of bonds between people, Bonds between people cause and create relationships. Every relationship has an expectation. Expectations sometimes are met and are sometimes not met. When expectations are not met, that is what we call a dispute has arisen. And mediation is one of many forms in which dispute resolutions can be solved. In the journey of IVF, I can highlight, and there are many more, 3 types of relationships that you're going to lock heads with. The very first relationship is a relationship that you know rather well. That's the relationship with yourself and with your partner. In other words, it's a relationship between partners who have decided that together they want a family. That particular relationship itself and that family has its own rules, its own boundaries. And I'm sure a number of you, whether you've decided to enter into some kind of marital regime or not, have elected to put and manage those boundaries of that relationship, those words, in what we call a written instrument, an agreement. So that's words in written form. The second agreement that, or second relationship, that you will be facing is that between a doctor and a patient. A particularly important relationship, but to a relationship which gets managed by putting words into a written instrument. When you go and see your medical practitioner in this regard, you'll be referred to a medical agreement and consents. So in other words, what's happening here is they too try and manage the relationship and expectations between parties. The third relationship which I'd like to highlight, and this is where the mix becomes extremely interesting, and this is where the expertise of legally, other than on the basis of mediation, come to play. It so happens that sometimes in this journey you require the assistance of what we call a third party comes into play. That third party can be in the form of a gamete donor, known or unknown, or of course as a surrogate. Now you put all of those expectations together, and we're dealing with one of the most emotive things in everyone's life, is starting, expanding a family. The movie that we saw a few minutes ago, the clip was the first time that I'd ever seen it. But the beauty of it was that it did illustrate how emotive it is. The emotive part of this relationship now that needs to be managed is quite volatile because of emotion and because of finance. Those are the 2 main, shall we call them protagonist areas in law as a practitioner, why disputes actually arise. It's about money and it's about emotions. And these 2 play a very specific role as you try and tailor-make your family. To preserve that, we want to introduce you to mediation. Now, I have, as a very cursory introduction, told you really what it is. But really, in a sense, what it does do is it compels me as a legal practitioner, or sometimes as a judge, to take that hat off. People are not coming to me to ask me to resolve their dispute for them. They're coming to me for the very first time to help them facilitate their own answer to their own problem. It's a highly empowering way of dispute resolution and finds a particular and important part in this work, because the aid of this work is to preserve family. I'm sure you understand that when disputes arise in family, and you decide to choose a particular arena to resolve it, most people will run to court, or they might run to arbitration, which is absolutely fine. That's what I've been doing. But I'd like you to turn your attention to another option. Because mediation is a number of things. One, it's confidential. A highly important criteria when you're starting your own family, and it is your own business and your own rules. A court is a public forum and must be a public forum for very obvious reasons. So a mediation is confidential. A mediation is informal. In other words, it's relaxed. People can be themselves. They can let loose. And when people are relaxed, information starts flowing. The third thing why you should select mediation in your journey is that it has no time constraints like a court of law. You don't have to wait and stand in a queue to get a date for resolution a year hence. What happens is if you need it, you pick up a phone. You ask a trusted mediator to assist you to resolve a particular deadlock, a particular issue. It doesn't matter how big, how small. It is actually irrelevant. So it's at a phone call away. The other thing, which is possibly the most important thing, is that the mediator that you select must be in law impartial. What that really means is for the mediator to actually bring a conclusion to a specific dispute. Now, we're not talking about mediating you through a particular journey, in other words, assisting you through a journey. We're talking about mediating one particular thing, the choice of a surrogate, something that's gone wrong in the relationship between you, whatever it may be, it's not relevant. The mediator must be impartial and cannot, in law, be part of the journey of the package of team that is assisting you. This is probably one of my most favorite pictures because it's actually me. I jest. What that is demonstrating is that if you elect mediation and think of it as a form of this image, this is what it is. Mediation, as we know in Latin, is a person who steps into the middle of a fracas, in the middle of what is worrying the two of you, or the three of you, or the four of you. But something else is happening. There's physical touch of somebody who's doing that, keeping the hands apart, the fists apart. But the crux of the issue is for a trained mediator, is through the ability of words to have the ability to bring those hands when it is ready and when it is ripe together. The moment the mediator has had the ability through the purpose of word, juggling it around, grabbing it from all sides, throwing it back to my left hand, throwing it back to my right hand, asking you to look at it for the first time with different eyes, and suddenly you'll see a light for yourself. When that light is seen, that is when a mediation agreement is drafted and settled. But like any other agreement, you can arguably say to me, but counsel, any agreements can be breached, and that is true, because expectations, when they're not met, it is a breach of confined management of a relationship. But we have found that when we actually give the power back to a particular person, and they make the decision for themselves and for family, there appears to be a greater desire not to breach that agreement. And that's the beauty of mediation. The end of it all is, and the final word is my final slide. Now, words speak volumes, as I've explained, but actually so do pictures, because pictures are words. Now, because I delve in the legal fraternity, I'm always interested in the access to justice and the right of justice. And in effect, to balance that scale is a very, very difficult job to do. But somebody has to do it. Society demands it, and families, not to be broken, it's important to embrace it. Now, what that picture does, and I'm assuming they've gone to mediation, it's as simple as that, otherwise I wouldn't have elected the picture. The point is that hopefully after the mediation process has taken place, the scales are even. The picture is happy. And it does appear in that particular picture that the family unit, which is the most important unit and why you're here, remains intact through the duration of your journey. As a parting shot, I want to leave you with the following words, more than one. A mediator, in essence, is a master orator. In other words, a person who can speak, but is also a person at the same time that has the ability to take a key and unlock the vocal cords of those two people at a stage where they can find their own voice and their own words. And to that end, that is the last word from me. Thank you very much for your attention.
7 years.
8 years.
I did fall pregnant and I had a miscarriage.
It was the worst pain in my life.
I'm destined to be a mother.
Your heart's just become our world.
We can't be silent about it.
Women don't want to talk about this. But what if we put our problems there for everyone to see, to help other people?
The Salome range of products tackle issues of infertility, menstrual pain, and heavy menstrual bleeding.